All right, and welcome everyone. Good to have you here as we start another Champions of the Rift, this time week number 2. And this time I have another friend that is joining us. It is Matt. Welcome and good to have you back.
Hey, glad to be here. Super excited to cast tonight's tournament, although for you guys, I believe it's late afternoon or early evening. But this should be a lot of fun. We've seen quite a few results from early Vendetta tournaments, and the meta's starting to take shape. It's still by no means defined, but it's getting to that point now where the decks are relatively consistent enough that it's getting pretty exciting to see, because you can kind of get an idea of what Barcelona and LA are potentially going to look like.
Yeah, exactly. And that's kind of the exciting part. It's the first time that we haven't had the Chinese meta kind of lay the groundwork for us, and instead we are getting started here with relative ease. So it's going to be a lot of fun to see how all of that is going to be playing in. And so we have a couple of minutes until the tournament starts, and then we get to see some fun stuff. Rek'Sai ended up having a really good showing this last meta and is really starting to seem like it is sending waves. Are there any other decks that are kind of catching your eye here?
That's interesting. It's like, I think it was like not a lot of Vendetta. This is from the Ottawa Showdown, right? That Prismat one with Rengar.
Oh, yeah.
Is that the reference? Like, Rengar is a deck that was already terrifying when Sam took it to, I believe it was Vancouver. I'm trying to remember. But that deck is just like, it comes at you with such ridiculous numbers, and then even when you go for potentially stuns or some kind of negative stat modifier onto the units, that you just get Thrill of the Hunt, more ambush. And it's just a deck that just really pushes a lot of aggression at you, and it's kind of difficult to play against. But seeing Prismat take, again, a deck that's considerably had strong results but isn't very popular, to win that tournament was very impressive, and something where Rengar has to be on your radar. You do need to do some games against it, and the problem is it makes you want to change your whole deck.
Yep.
And it's not a very common matchup, and that's exactly where Annie was in the previous format, where the only player that really had to worry about on it was Prismat, but you still had to worry because it was Prismat, and at some point, if you're playing in that tournament, you are likely to pair into him on the top tables.
Yeah.
But it's just like one of those fringe decks that kind of makes you want to change your deck. You can't realistically make the alterations for that one archetype, which makes it so hard to tech against in most decks.
Yeah, no, and that, I think the nicest part about this too is that not only are we getting kind of new revamps of old decks or new cards that are coming in with all of that, but we also have a lot of really fun stuff that is showing us that, you know, the more legends that we get into this meta, the more that we have to be able to like show for it. You know, we thought that we would have a couple of top decks, and we still do, but it's also like when you get to like the top S tier, there's a couple, but when you get to like that A tier, it's like, wait, there's probably like 10, 15 decks that you can pick from that can be very competitive, even especially at your local Nexus nights.
Yeah, I mean, that's one of the great things about Riftbound is I think even the B tier decks don't feel completely hopeless, especially if you play at a Nexus night. You can go in with a macro strategy and do quite well. And that is a real cool aspect for the game. And we're generally encouraged to have such a wide, diverse meta because of the best ofs. It artificially pushes people away from certain decks because it's just a case of like, okay, I could got a chance of winning this incredible prize if I just take something that's potentially B tier. So you can realistically expect to see B or even C tier decks all the way into day 2 at regional qualifiers, which makes it interesting because you can't ignore them. You have to at least know how they work or what they're trying to do, or be able to very quickly figure out in the middle of the game what your opponent's on. I mean, I'll give credit to the guy who sat down first against their opponent's Infinite Lux deck and was like, I have no idea what's going to happen. Like,
Yeah.
oh, it's Lux. But it's a day 2, so I'm concerned. Like,
yeah.
And you should be. You are in danger. But you need to have an idea of how, like, even these like really weird off decks are trying to do what their signature is, read their chosen champion, read their legend, read their battlefield, and then just kind of make assumptions about what you're going to be looking at in there.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, we got a diverse meta as a result. Now the results point to a proper tier list, but the actual playing experience is very much more diverse,
Yeah.
and I love that about Riftbound.
No, I really do. I really do too. And I think it's going to just continue to get more and more diverse with all of that. And so, with that being said, too, guys, we have the competitors who are starting to get into their lobby. So, for those of you who might be new here, how Champions of the Rift works is it is going to be a best of three rounds, basically like playing your local Nexus night. So, a lot of fun there. And so, competitors are able to bring their decks, testing out some things. And then, how that will work is at the end, depending on how they score, will depend on how many points they end up getting on the leaderboard. And at the end of the 10 weeks, they are going to be qualifying for that top 16 to be able to play for one of two playmats at the end of the season. That's right. If you get first, you get a champion playmat with the legend of your choice that I will send out to you. And second place will be a finalist playmat. So a lot of fun stuff. And again, this is a free league for people to be able to join, and an absolute blast. So, with that being said, it looks like we are just about to get into the first game, and it is going to be Spartan versus Diablo. So Diablo is actually someone from my locals who has been streaming on Twitch a lot, and Spartan is someone that has been inviting me. He invited me at an airport to join his playtest group. So
Okay,
kind
he
of
didn't invite you
interesting.
to go on his plane. Like, because I'd have been like, oh, you're going to the wrong city. What are you talking about?
So yeah, we met in Hartford, and so a lot of fun there. Let me also make sure that you
Yeah, I
can.
was about to ask, can I get a screen share?
Yeah,
Otherwise, I
gonna.
can imagine what the game looks like.
No,
Maybe a
you're
bit like
gonna
Meadowland.
have to guess at this
The food
point.
is imaginary. Oh, I think he's playing Kennen. He's
So
probably playing a stack deck right now.
yep, in this case, we have an interesting matchup here where we are going to be going in with a Renata versus Draven here. And we don't really see a whole lot of Renata, but it looks like we have just an absolute powerhouse of a start here where we have a start with the unit being able to move in and then getting out a Sprite Fountain. So not a bad thing for Renata to be able to get things
This
going.
is a very aggressive opener. We've burned 2 power immediately within our first 2 turns. So for the rest of the game, we're effectively 2 energy down on Draven until Draven decides to commit some power.
Mm-hmm.
But we've gone for the Sprite Fountain and immediately go for a hidden card on Grove and Godwillow. Now, the benefits of us actually sticking this hold, we've left free energy open as well. So this is like so obnoxious because Draven can't really ignore this. Yep, we're going to go for Cannon Stun. Cannon, one of my favorite cards in Vendetta. I think it's an excellent card, and it's also one that doesn't get defied. It's 2 might unit for free energy, and when you play it, or when I attack, you may pay 2 to stun a unit. If there's a stun enemy unit there, I have +2 might. So the really cool thing for this is you can play it to base and still stun their unit. And I guess the trick that we're doing this is like temporal. We can flick the cannon out of play, bring it back in, and it can stun anywhere because it wasn't hidden.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's actually really cool with Renata. I hadn't considered that.
Yeah.
And this aggressive spending of power is great because if you want to crash, I mean, we could now just crash this Kai'Sa in with a spinning axe. Oh, or we can just charge in over 2 waves because we do not want our opponent to get this hold.
Yeah, and I mean, that's going to be a really good trade right there, a big advantage. Yes, you are only going to be getting a gold from that, but being able to take out a Kennen, then being able to also conquer and draw a card off of the Kai'Sa is a good start to be able to clap back at that Kennen. Now, the hard part here that I will see for Renata is there is a chance that, you know, Draven is definitely going to want to be holding here to be able to get the card off of Grove of the Godwillow. That's going to be huge. So, in some way, we are going to need to have Diablo be able to move in and take over this battlefield. But man, looks like he's going the other way.
Yeah, I mean, we could potentially just play Hostile Takeover. Or Call the Weak also takes away the hidden card. Yeah, we're going to go for Evelyn. It's kind of weird, right? That a lot of the cards we tend to play are in our hidden slots are units because of that. Because it's such a blowout if you have something like Switcheroo set, and it just your unit gets blown out of space by some just damage-based removal. But getting that hold on Kai'Sa, on Grove of the Godwillow, after we've already drawn a card, Draven hasn't even won a combat, and we're so far ahead on card economy here. Now, all we have to do is leave 2 up for the rest of the game whenever it looks like Renata's going to come in for the attack. And we can present a spinning axe, which is just awful to attack into.
Well, and then even on top of that, it's like you're just switching things back and forth, getting so much card advantage from the Grove of the God of Willow, and now you have 2 Kai'Sas out. And even with having something like Call of the Week coming into the gameplay here, it hasn't necessarily made much of an impact, but Singularity is going to be able to do something here to be able to take out both of those Kai'Sas. But again, you're seeing more card draw from Grove of the God Willow.
I find Grave of the God Willow just... first of all, I'm surprised that Diablo blinded Grave of the God Willow, because it is a battlefield that you can that backfires spectacularly if you ever lose control of it. And when you don't know if you're going first or second, and that can directly affect how you're going to compete over this battlefield.
Mm-hmm.
It feels like just such a risk to take this blind. This almost feels like you have to take this going first when you know you can actually secure and set up on there. Granted, I will say that the openings on there of having Kennen and a unit was very, very strong, but it's going to be quite hard to wrest control here. Although if we've got another Call of the Week and the signature spell, Hostile Takeover, we can actually get a double kill here and score Grove of the God Willow going up to 4. But Draven still has a whole mitt of cards, so that would eat a lot of power, and we would not be developing anything.
Mm-hmm. Well, and this is going to be the hard part, too, because you're going to be finding yourself as the Renata player not being able to keep up with what Draven's been able to put out here because of Grove of the God Willow. And I think this is an unnecessary risk that needed to be taken here because, yeah, just like what you said, if you end up start losing Grove of the God Willow and we continue to hold things down, we're seeing stack deck coming into the game, and you're more and more locking your opponent out from just a very powerful battlefield. And so I really, would hope that we could get things going a little bit more, but this Draven is here to stay and is even showing it more by putting everything with a hidden card to be able to defend.
Yep, and we just bring the Draven back, so he's very safely sitting, ready to contest. And the Renata not going to be able to do anything the turn that it moves in, unless we find a way to ready it. It's just a tough spot. Even something like Singularity did not really improve our situation beyond removing the 2 Kai'Sas.
No, not at all. And I mean, here we go with the Renata Glask moving in. Now, the thing is that you could try to play the catch-up game a little bit here by scoring an additional point, but it looks like a Rebuke is going to be coming in to try to push that Renata back. And again, if this goes through, and it will, this is going to be very much slowing down the Renata player. And this is just going to be a hard matchup, I feel, for Renata.
I actually think that this matchup should be not terrible for Renata. The biggest problem is going to be the Kai'Sas and having a way to stop them actually scoring and recuperating cards. But you can prevent your opponent from winning a lot of the combats, and just by virtue of removing all of their units, eventually the Draven player should be running out of cards. But Grove of the God Willow is completely offset what would have been a weakness for Draven, which is never getting a desirable combat. We've given Draven all the extra cards that they need to just pretend that they won all those combats anyway, and they're just slowly holding up the score. And we're seeing a lot of great decisions being made by Spartan here about preserving units and understanding where their units need to be at any state of the game. So Spartan is just playing extremely well with what they've been dealt, and I think Diablo's unfortunately dug their own grave with this Grove of the God Willow.
Yeah, I agree. And the tough part is also with Vilemal Lair is that you are going to be finding yourself more often than not, sticking a unit there that will not be able to move around. Luckily, though, with Draven, you do have things like Ride the Wind and whatnot, but even still, you got to be a little bit careful on who you put there. And I think also just having Grove of the God Willow being that, beacon on the hill, and it's like, nope, we want that for sure. And so even still, having this Draven now going down to 9 might, and that is not. Yep, there they go. They caught that.
yeah, like yes. Even Might of Tide Turner cannot make you get out of the Varmor, but you can. If you play on Grove of the God Willow, you would be able to move to Grove of the God Willow and swap the Tide Turner in, but you just can't go to base. That's the whole thing. That's the only thing
Yeah.
Valuable's actually does.
Well, and that's one of the, interesting rules of this game too, is that can't trumps can. And so if something says can't, it doesn't matter in this case. And so it's like, all right, well, but at least they caught that. Good on the players for being able to do so there. But still, I mean, Draven having 8 cards in his hand, 8 runes to be able to work with. I mean, both battlefields are conquered. Everything here is at his disposal, essentially, to be able to win out on this game number 1.
Yeah, this entire game was won on the turn where we forced the cannon, and then we were able to take the grove of the Kai'Sa, and we just never let our opponent have it back. Like it was that one turn, it just spiraled this out of control. And if you're kind of new to card games or something, if you want to kind of make a estimate on your opponent's odds of having a particular card, if you want to do some hand reading, we can see that Draven is 22 cards into their deck.
Mm-hmm.
So we're basically, well, they've only got 22 cards left. They're halfway through their deck. Plus, they would have thrown 2 cards back for their mulligans. So the chances that they start seeing their 2-ofs, very high. So if there's a card that you suspect they're playing multiple copies of, especially with a big mid like this, you're very likely going to be seeing copies 2 and 3 are coming just around the corner. Because there's one way you can do it. You just divide the deck into thirds, and you can kind of say, okay, they're going to have 1 here, 1 here, 1 here. That's not a hard and fast rule, but if you need to do a quick calculation, that is one way you can sort of gauge your risk profile.
No, and I think that makes a really good point there. And now we have an Ornn that is going to be moving in, almost like a little bit of a last stand, but a Spinning Axe is going to be coming in to go up to 7 there, which is going to be plenty. But we'll see what kind of response with Wages of Pain, even just to get a trade in. But I mean, if that hidden card is going to be an Evelyn, then this game is as good as done.
Yeah. So we get the 3 damage. We're attacking for 4. We probably could see the second Spinning Axe.
And interesting to see the gold being made so that the Ornn can actually get a little bit higher in might there. But it looks like a Pike is going to be the hidden face down card that will be coming in. Now, this is also going to be a unit that once each turn when an enemy unit dies while I'm at a battlefield, play a gold gear token exhausted. And it should be noted that it has backline, meaning that damage is dealt to it last.
I love this card. This card was criminally underplayed in the last format. As a free might hidden card, it's just like, that's a lot of stats. Like, even if it didn't do anything else, it's a lot of stats. And it gives you gold. And it has backline. So it works with whatever you've got there. It's just like getting free might for 1 power. And if you're playing something like Seals and that, I've just always been a fan of this Pike. And I'm glad to see it starting to see some play, especially if you're playing decks like Baron Nashor. You play the Baron, you tap out, and then you just take 2 battlefields and hide 2 units. It's like, oh yeah, I've just like added 5 extra might to each of those battlefields. I've just got punch firsts hidden, along with maybe an effect with them. And it's just like so disgusting.
Yeah, it really is. And so we'll see though, but Renata has some work to do.
X Highway says they can't see the sidebar on the stream. Is that where the cards pop up on the side? Obviously, I'm watching.
Yeah, I still have to code that in, unfortunately. Just ran out of time this week. But yeah, next week we should have the cards available. That's why I will be reading them out to you guys to the best of my ability. So, but yeah.
Yeah, we won't go, oh my god, you won't believe what's happened. Oh, you have to see this. You had to be there. Just like to troll people. No worries, we're gonna be bringing you all the action. We're not gonna be keeping any secrets from you.
Nah, not at all.
Seeing a double treasure hoard game. This is such a weird battlefield as well, and it's one that I think people kind of overlook. It's good if you're going second because it takes you off your curve. Anytime you want to take one of these battlefields, you're not going to be playing. So, say you've got 5 energy units in your deck. When you've got 5 energy, you can't conquer, take it, and play the unit you want to play. So it forces you to almost play behind in order to take advantage of the power. So it kind of slows you down unless your deck's built specifically to take advantage of that. And we see, like, from this Draven player that we've got multiple copies of Kai'Sa and stuff. So, for example, if we do take one of these treasure hoards, we can get the gold and play our Kai'Sa and not have a problem with that.
Yeah, well, and on top of that, we've already seen the Renata being able to come in and utilize the Ornn. And now if you're going to be able to also create a bunch of gold off of that each and every turn, that could be something to really make that impact into this late game. So there still is going to be some time to see what Renata is going to be able to do to develop, especially with now a Kai'Sa being able to move in and take this battlefield. That is going to be another gold, but you're giving the Draven at this point now 2 cards being drawn, one for the Legend ability and one for Kai'Sa. So again, we're already seeing a ton of value being in with this Kai'Sa, and Renata's going to need to figure out a way to clap back before it is way too late.
Yeah, and that is a huge tempo swing where there was every option to just go ahead and make the gold and play Kai'Sa to the base, or is it like, wait, I can just draw 2 cards, take this battlefield, and then back it up with a overzealous fan. So if my opponent moves in, they effectively give me another card, and they have nothing in the back line that currently contests what I have. And even if your opponent just goes Singularity on that, I think you're and then moves to their treasure hoard, you're not in the worst position because your Kai'Sa's already double drawn for you.
Yep, exactly. And it's already done its job. And that's one of the things that is really fun about this game, too, is when you're trying to calculate out your unit's value. And that can be something to really sway what actions you end up taking. So even if you do happen to send a Kai'Sa, even if Overzealous Fan, for example, wasn't in this battlefield currently, still being able to know that you're probably going to win this battlefield, Kai'Sa is going to get you a point and 2 cards. You've already made back your value in what Kai'Sa is able to bring you for 5 and a power. And so a lot of times those calculations can be a little bit more difficult to make than that. But if you are able to find that value accurately, it can be a game changer in your strategy.
There's a couple of simple ways of doing it. One of the key things is that it's difficult to value how much a point is worth because over the course of the game, the cost of each point gets exponentially higher because your opponent's going to be interacting, blocking, and killing your units. So it gets very hard to calculate. But if you look at your colors and sort of say, hey, what's the cheapest card that says draw a card? That's a spell. And in most cases, you can look at something like Consult the Panels, which costs 4 to draw 2 cards. Or I'm trying to remember what it's called. There's the blue card that has repeat, which is pay 2, draw a card. So you can say, hey, drawing a card is worth about 2 energy. So in this case, we scored a point, we killed a unit, and we drew 2 cards. So it's like we've massively exceeded the energy that we invested into this Kai'Sa in order to make that play. And sometimes those rule numbers don't necessarily actually translate to what's happening on the game. You can't ignore what your opponent is doing, even if you're like, but I got much more energy efficiency than my opponent. It's like, but my opponent got to 8 points before I did. That still doesn't matter then. Even if it felt like you played 20 energy and your opponent played 8, if they got the 8th point, then you did something wrong. But you can do stuff like that to see, is this play worth it? Especially in situations like this where we can see the Renata's tapped out, there's a hidden card, and it's just a case of we don't want to let this Renata ready. So we've got to find a way to nudge this off. Oh, we've just got Evelyn for it. So we can just drag that away.
Yep.
I love this.
Well, and that's going to be such a powerful avenue for you to be able to go down to, because Evelyn not only is going to be able to be revealed from hidden, but also you're giving her backline too. So Forerunner's going to be taking the blunt of that hit, and Evelyn is going to add an additional 2. So not only do you get the card draw, but you also get to take out a big threat of Renata. And I gotta say, Draven just continues to have the answers here turn after turn. And even with now Renata having 8 cards in hand and a hidden blade coming into play here, I don't know if there's going to be much else that is able to keep Renata in this game, and we might even see a 2-0 at this point.
Yeah, it's tough, and what I particularly love about Evelyn, especially in Draven decks, is just being able to Starcross and then pick up the Evelyn, bounce their thing, and if they want to play it back to base, they potentially play it straight into the Evelyn that you reset. So it's just like, it can put your opponent in lots of no-win situations. Evelyn is a really, really cool card, but again, it depends on you having having a hold plan. And quite a few competitive decks actually don't have hold plans. Oh, I do love Brittle Steel.
Yep, Brittle Steel coming in. Whew.
Yeah, kill a gear, and then it has flow. This is just like, you can play it as a one-off in your main deck, and it kills 2 gears. So it kind of gives you a little bit of leeway against Jace. It's just very good into Kennen, and if you want pro advice on how to play into the Kennen deck, you go after their seals. If they actually have to pay power to play their deck, it doesn't do very well. They can't do a lot if they have to keep actually paying the power cost. The way it gets around that is by drawing for his deck so quickly and then playing its seals out. And we're going to be coming back to this game though, because I will go off on all the tangents every time something excites me. We're going to be seeing Sprite Fountain and Wages of Pain.
So, I mean, just like that, going to be trying to move in, but with the 2 up and 7 or 8 cards in hand, I'm going to be assuming that there has to be a spinning axe that is going to be coming into play here. Even if not, there's even a couple of maybe different answers that you could utilize here too, if you're not too worried about losing Evelyn.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is with Draven, you very rarely want to play the spinning axe on defense because it has temporary. So if you don't reattach it, you just lose the axe, and it's a lot better to play offensively because if it goes wrong, like you can just move it over to this Forerunner, and we could be just seeing another Evelyn that's just over there. So we're just like, yeah, we can let our opponent have the 4th point. They had to commit for it. If we've got the spinning axe, we can still use it whenever we need to. We're on 5. We'd like to go to 6 this turn, but yeah, it starts to get challenging because if Renata gets this 5th point, the gold suddenly can be used. They give energy as well. And then that can get really dangerous because it can let Renata do things that you're not normally allowed to do.
Mm-hmm.
So we do kind of have to make sure that this honest broker does not see another day. Ideally. It feels weird saying that, actually. Kill the honest broker, not the corrupt one. Get the honest one.
So, and that's the thing too, though, is even with all of this, you still have a pretty good board state set up on both, and Renata is still holding a good chance of being able to conquer both. The one thing that I was a little bit worried about, with another brittle steel coming in, choosing to pay 4 for that to be able to blow up the fountain to stop from 3 might coming in, a little bit of a risk there because that is going to be 4 and a power to be able to take care of that. But even still, if that's something that can get you a little bit further ahead, then more power to you there.
Yeah, I'm kind of a fan. It's one that people generally don't like doing, but stealing 1 sprite away from the opponent is actually very, very powerful. Because for Sprite Fountain, in most decks, they had to pay a power to play it. So if they don't get both halves of it, your opponent has actually got a significant loss. And a sprite, unless they're Lilia playing Smoke and Mirrors, does nothing during your turn. So it's actually kind of like a good target, especially if you've just got something sat in your trash that has flow that you can just go, I'm not doing anything else this turn. I'm just going to eat that and not worry about the sprite next turn. But we do have to be mindful that we're now technically getting into the realms of having 15 energy on the following turn. And that is Time Warp plus a whole bunch of stuff.
And
so this
yeah,
might be out of Draven's hands at this point. They might just be at that critical mass point where they just do not have enough energy to contest the rest of what Renata wants to do. Renata has a lot of draw here.
and that's going to be the tricky part, though. And we did see a little bit of digging with Consult the Past to try to get those answers. But, I mean, at the same time, if we are able to see a time warp, that's going to be going into from 6 to 7 points, and then a good chance to be able to come through on that game. And so I was one to start to count out what Renata was maybe able to do in this game too here. But yeah, you're exactly right. He's able to get the extra mana from the legend ability of Renata, and that could be paying dividends to really secure this game too and keep him in this match.
Means your Time Warp does not get hard bargained completely out of existence. So this is actually quite a dangerous spot. Even though Draven's got representing Starcross here, we have access to 15 energy. That gives us a lot to play into our opponent's free open. We just don't really have anything in base. Hostile takeover. This is great because then if the Forerunner dies, the Renata player gets the max.
Yeah, that's true. And that's something very interesting to be considering here. And I got to say, that's one of the saddest parts is Renata is not the best legend, but has one of the most fun spell cards or signature spells to be able to utilize here. And so because of that, we are going to be able to take control of an enemy unit and see what else is able to be there. But because of also the legend ability, we still also have enough to be able to time warp after this. So because of that, we might have to hold on to the hard bargain and allow certain things to play out so that we can still stop that time warp from coming through.
Yeah, if that time warp lands, see, this is like the really tough part. If we kill the Forerunner here, opponent gets the max. If we let this go, we could just shove it back to our opponent's base, but then that Poro gets to come in for free and effectively threaten the same time warp. It's a tough spot. We kind of have to hold up our hard bargain. We're kind of locked out being able to play anything else. We could. I imagine there was a consideration about whether or not you play Starcross if you have it and bounce your Forerunner and your opponent's Poro. But yeah, the Forerunner was stolen ready, so it gets recalled and can go straight back in.
And again, that's going to be opening the door for, that double conquer being up to 7 at that point. Now, even with the signature spell, one thing that we do have to be mindful of is going to be, do we keep that Forerunner alive? Because that's the thing. If you risk the time warp, then they're just going to get the Forerunner back, and they very well could try to take both battlefields and win out here. But still, great effort there on going up to 7 points at the end of this conquer, but a very difficult situation for Spartan to try to calculate out.
Yeah, it's a case of you have to just bluff hard bargain. I think if you don't, your opponent 100% takes a time warp. If you tap under here. But the other risk then is we play Colder Week instead of risking the time warp. And we can go ahead and effectively... Okay, yeah, we're taking the gold, so we're not going to go for a time warp risk.
But we are going to Ash. And
See,
holy!
Didn't have the hard bargain, but they had all the axes in the world. Oh, dear.
This is interesting. Every single axe, and I'm really curious on if Diablo did have the time warp in hand. I do understand. I do like that he didn't risk it in this case, but still, 3 spinning axes, and even outside of that, a rebuke and blood rush. Just a lot of really good answers here to be able to try to deal with this board state. And there's a lot to be seen. I mean, don't forget that the Rek'Sai does also have Assault, which is going to be adding 1 to its might while attacking, and then you have a good amount of stuff also on the back end there. So, gosh, what do you get rid of at this point?
That is really, really tough. And we still have our Forerunner problem. We ideally want to play Colder Week or something to get rid of it before our opponent gets it back. And I'm assuming that was the plan if we weren't going to go for a time warp here. And it was excellently held back because there was a lot of patience there. We could have rebuked the Forerunner in order to prevent it from actually taking this battlefield. Our opponent's going to get their Forerunner back, and they get their axes as well. This is going to be so hard to make these holds. Now, not impossible. We got 2 hidden cards.
Yeah, and I mean, if you have, we've already seen 1 hidden blade at this point. Still a good chance that there might be another hidden blade and even going for a trade here. And so we'll see, though. There's, 1 rune up still. And, while your score is within 3 points of the victory score, your gold also still adds an additional 1. And so keep in mind, that's reaction ability. So you could have 4 runes to try to get that last-ditch effort from a card in hand as well.
I think this is just so hard to hold because we've got axes and we can cascade them down. And also we can use the Rek'Sai to accelerate the tokens off the Forerunner. We can assume that there's probably a hostile takeover hidden somewhere, and Hidden Blade. You're not too beaten up if our opponent has Wages of Pain hidden. They could be Cannon. That would be playable in this situation, but
we are seeing one of the axes coming in to put it at 8. We'll see if there's anything to be able to answer back at that.
Oh, even if we consult, we're gonna lose this battlefield. But actually, it would have been nice if we had been able to bait out 2 of the spinning axes to prevent the other side being able to just do the same cascade plan.
Yeah, well, and that's the thing too, is now only 1 remains of the spinning axe left, and so we'll see what other responses are able to be done, but it looks like the rebuke is going to be coming in, might very well be targeting the Ornn here. That is going to be an additional 2 runes that need to be paid in the power cost, as a temporal breach is going to be coming in to blip the Ornn back out and into existence.
Oh, that is still beatable because we've got the Assault 1, so we've got 10 to our opponent. No, we don't. We can Spinning Axe, but then so low. We've got the we've got the Blood Rush actually.
And it
But
looks like
our
Blood
opponent's
Rush will
not.
be repeated.
Yeah, makes sense. But we do have 4 energy to play with, so there could be a Hidden Blade, and that would close out the game if this Rek'Sai attack doesn't go through. We do still have 2 energy up though, so we do still have access to our spinning attacks.
Yep, and so, oh my gosh, this is coming right down to the wire, 7-7 right now, and still 4 runes up. Now the difficult part about Ornn is when Renata has to respond, then you're really hoping that you have enough to be able to do so. But Brittle Steel is going to be coming in to destroy one of the readied gold here.
You can just react and kill the gold.
Yeah.
It's the reaction. So was that missed?
That was a miss in this case, I would say, yeah. Because you could just float it in reaction to.
Yeah. So the Rek'Sai has to die here. And then we... Oh, we don't necessarily win because we end up shrinking the Ornn.
Yeah.
So we got 6. If we can clear the Rek'Sai, our opponent has 6. And we'll be at 7 if we only spend 1 of our gold. So Hidden Blade wins on the spot if we have it. We do not, and Draven does Draven, and even though there was a ridiculous amount of deflect paid, you can play deflect a million if it means you're going to win the game.
Well, and that's going to be the biggest thing, and you take a look at both opponents' hands there, and unfortunately just not the answers needed for Diablo to be able to secure this, as Draven then takes it 2-0. So a great job there from Draven. Again, he's been making his climb. He wasn't necessarily seen all that much in the beginning of Unleashed, or throughout the duration of Unleashed, but ever since Vendetta, it has been back and is coming back with a vengeance there. So we'll see what ends up happening. We have a lot of game still left to be seen. I mean, that was only about 25 minutes of our game, so we'll be sure to go and find you guys another game real quick to be taking a look at. So all in all, though, Matt, what were your thoughts on that game?
I just kind of... I felt like Spartan played extraordinarily well with their position. You can see how much they've practiced different matchups in the way they were moving their units around. It felt like such small micro decisions about which unit was going to sit in Grove of the God Willow each turn, but it shows you how much Spartan understood where his units needed to be or what he needed them to be able to do if the opponent responded. Oh my god, someone has unlocked the croc.
Yep,
that was Renekton.
Unfortunately,
but
their game was over, unfortunately. But, yeah, we're going to be trying to get into another game here, and we'll be watching a Renekton later, definitely to see what is going to be there with that. So we have another game coming in for you guys.
Yeah, and Draven's still very, very good. I think it just didn't see play because people were kind of a bit sick of it, and Aurelia was very strong in the Unleashed meta. We're going to be seeing Kha'zix. Kha'zix's deck that's been picking up a lot of popularity is a highly technical deck. It's basically... It doesn't have a big macro plan other than getting to 8 points and trying to pick up some XP along the way, but it just bullies the opponent. And it's so good against Master Yi because your chosen champion gets +2 whenever it fights something alone. Master Yi wants to be alone, so you completely offset Master Yi's bonus. And we also get to play Punch First. We also get to play Starcross. We get to play Sabotages in this deck. And we do see the new card, Nexus of Tentacle, I can't remember. It's got Empower, you get to bring units back. So it gives you extra uses of your Irresistible Fey Folk. And it can allow you to just keep bullying. Like, Kha'zix feels like a very early game deck. Like, it just keeps pressuring you until, like, you go, my opponent's already at 6 points and I've just got onto the board. That's the position Kha'zix wants to be in. Kha'zix does not want to be in the position where it's basically ran out of cards, and there we go. It's basically ran out of cards, and your opponent starts just like creeping back in, and losing your chosen champion can be very, very tough for the Kha'zix deck. But it has a very, very good Yi matchup, and Yi is considered one of the biggest decks in the format. So it's one we might be seeing a lot more of.
No, and I definitely think that we have that chance to be able to see more in this case. And so, I mean, really, it looks like this round 1 has gone incredibly fast, all things around. And that's the interesting thing, too, and I want to get your feedback on this, is that it feels like that the pace of this game is at a really good point right now, where you're still going to get some grindy matches. If you find yourself going against Ezreal, that's going to be a long game. But in general, it seems like that the pace of play of these games are relatively good.
Yeah, and one of the biggest culprits for that is actually Starcrossed, because you can't really afford to be playing big units that don't do something immediately when they're played. We're just about justifying Forerunner because of how impactful it is anytime it doesn't get Starcrossed. But it's just, you're in a situation where your deck kind of has to be quite low to the ground, so it results in the matchups being a lot faster than they were before, because you needed to have some sort of plan for when your opponent starts throwing Forerunners in your face, which isn't the case anymore. So now people have gone much lower to the ground, and that results in games being faster. And we look at decks like Rek'Sai, which I think has done really well because not a lot of people have practiced against Rek'Sai, and you have to play against it very differently than you would most other decks, because you have to play around what the Rek'Sai player wants to do as opposed to what naturally you would normally do. So a big example of this is when they open with a Candlelit Sanctum and they move their 2-cost unit in, and then you've got your turn 1 play, which is a free might unit, and your immediate thought is walk over the 2, score my point, clear my opponent's unit. And what that does is then gives the Rek'Sai player a chance to kill your unit, get the Sanctum again, and again get another free card off of their legend, when what you really should do is go to the open battlefield, leave their guy to get the hold point, and just invest your energy in making sure Rek'Sai does not get a Conqueror on the following turn. And then Rek'Sai doesn't get free cards because they can't use their legend ability on holds and they can't reconquer it. So if they do get a clean conquer, you can make sure they don't get it every turn, and you outscale them if you do that, because the way the Rek'Sai deck wins is it plays more cards than you. It doesn't play better cards than you, it just plays more. And if you can prevent them from doing that, it reduces the chance that their casino deck goes off where they hit things like the Under Titan. But again, that's something you only know if you've practiced quite a lot against Rek'Sai. Otherwise, you're just going to say, oh, it makes sense to just walk over my opponent's 2, score board position, score a point. I'm actually generating value, when you're giving them back their most ridiculous battlefield for the Rek'Sai player, giving them another trigger. And the Rek'Sai deck kind of wants to conquer, hold, conquer, hold. It doesn't ever want to take both sides in the same turn, otherwise it loses legend value. It's a weird match, but I think as more people practice it, we'll see the number of successful Rek'Sai start coming down.
Yeah, well,
in my humble opinion,
I do think you're right about that, and this is a very good platform for Rek'Sai to be able to jump ahead for the time being. And I really think that we're going to be potentially seeing a lot of Rek'Sais over in Barcelona. I don't think it's going to be as drastic of an effect as what we've seen like with the LeBlanc, where LeBlanc came in swinging from the very beginning and was a very powerful option, and then once people kind of figured out how to play around the deck, it fell to the side, the side a bit. But at the same time, I think Rek'Sai is poised much better to have that success to be able to keep going, though its win rate might come back down to earth a little bit. So we'll see. But I mean, I gotta say, especially for it being a very budget-friendly deck, you don't have to run like Kai'Sa's or things for that matter, and you're building it for basically around $100. And then you're able to compete with the best of them. And so I'm really excited to see where this deck is going to go. And I think it is set up relatively well to have a good run this set.
Yeah, I actually just want to latch onto a point you made there. And one of the most incredible things about Riftbound is how many budget decks are actually viable because of the best ofs. Like, you can actually show up to a regional on $100 deck and have a real chance of playing into stuff. Because of how wide the field is. As long as you've done enough practice, you've got the opportunity there, which is really cool because it does open the field to many more people, assuming you can get a ticket to a regional qualifier. And I'm not salty in any way that I was in the pre-queue for LA and then found out that the pre-queue people had to refresh, even though the message on the screen said, do not refresh. Under pain of death, you will lose your seat and you will have no more heirs to your throne and you will die alone. Like, it didn't quite say that, but that's how I read it. And then I couldn't get my ticket for LA because it's like, you're in a queue. The tickets have sold out. I'm like, God damn it! If I'd have just showed up on time, I may have had a chance. So instead, I'm not playing any Vendetta regionals. So I'm just going to spend all the secret sauce on YouTube videos and just enjoy casting some tournaments and playing online for this set. But I'm pretty disappointed because Vendetta has been very fun to play.
It has been, and it's real nice because this one didn't necessarily have like the power creep of what we saw from like set 2 to set 3. And so I'm going to be curious now if we continue to keep going wider with it all on that. And so I do think that we still actually have one game going. I've been trying to get into another game, so let's get into this to be able to see what we have in store. But it looks like we are going to have a Kha'zix versus Master Yi, as they are both 1-1 in game number 3. So we still have one more match to be able to watch from, and we'll see what is in store here.
Yeah, and this matchup again is just so hard for Master Yi because of all of the stuff that Kha'zix does that pressures super early, and that's when Master Yi is kind of at its strongest. And it's actually kind of funny that we've got both Rengar and Kha'zix in the deck. They're both like hunter assassins, and they kind of hate each other. In fact, I think that's how Rengar lost his eye. It's kind of like Scorpion and Sub-Zero, except nobody throws ice. But we have the get over here spirit in the Tasty Fey folk sat in the back line. So Master Yi can't even just say, okay, I'm just going to develop. Instead, they have to risk whatever they're playing into a Kha'zix just coming straight out of the champion zone. But Kha'zix is low on runes because of that punch first on the previous turn. So Master Yi is going to have to hold up quite a few runes to contest either of these battlefields. And the Frozen Wastes is... We're going to get dragged onto the Frozen Wastes if we play anything meaningful. So that's a challenge. Like, if we leave 5 up to Rengar, we don't really want to Rengar into the Frozen Wastes. We lose our benefit of being Master Yi. But Charm on the Fey Folk, this is good. This is very good play.
Yeah, that's going to be a great response on being able to get that taken care of. Now, you do have to be worried about a couple of different plays in this case. But all things considered, yeah, Yi is going to have to be very calculated, but not only that, going to have a couple of draws to get things taken care of. But still, that Scuttle Crab to be able to see what remains in hand, and we get to see a little bit of a challenge. And because of that, that's going to be the decision to then play the the Ruin Runner so that it cannot be targeted with the 2 cards in hand.
Look at opponent's hand. I'm going to play the Ruin Runner. That's the only one that doesn't die to literally everything. Like, Scuttle Crab is such a ridiculous card. Did it have to, like, I know it's on flavor, but did it have to draw a card and look at your opponent's hand? Like, looking at your opponent's hand is just such a powerful effect.
Yeah. No, it really is. And I just can't believe that, you know, you're able to play. Ruin Runner has been just such a menace in this meta. I mean, it really was that, along with Rengar, that made Yi get right back on top. But even still, through all of that, this is going to still be a development turn for Yi, and he's only going to have 1 unit out onto the battlefield. So we'll see if Kha'zix is going to be able to capitalize on this. I mean, after all, we still have a Kha'zix in the champion zone, which could be a big factor here. And then a brand new card coming in, which is Tail-Cloaked Matriarch.
Yep, and this one gets back the Fey Folk, so you can continue to harass your opponent's backline. But again, the Ruin Runner is just such a solid unit because Starcrossed is just so prevalent, and Fizz Loops. And if you need a unit that has to stick, it's kind of the only unit in the game that actually does that, other than Akali Silent, which some of the Master Yi decks are playing. They don't have enough mobility to really make it work. But this is tough because our Ruin Runner is now stuck in the Frozen Waste, so we're not getting our Yi benefit. But we know that the 2 cards on our opponent's hand do not answer the Ruin Runner, so what we're saying here is, okay, yeah, we've got an Hourglass, and we've probably got some number of tricks to back this up. We could start to tip the game balance here if we can just ride this Ruin Runner all the way in, but it's going to be tough because Kha'zix is still in the champion zone.
Yep. Well, I think that was the biggest thing here, too, was Kha'zix was doing a very good job at, I'm now low on runes because of the punch first, to your point that you brought up, and then was able to also take care of the board state. So even though I am down to only having 3 runes, I'm able to slow the game down enough to where Yi isn't able to capitalize on that rune detriment here. And so now we have a much more even playing field as Up From the Deep is coming in to be able to create 2 1 Might Tentacle tokens. And we'll see, you know, if Kha'zix has the momentum now to be able to really take it home here in this round 1 match.
And yep, that was again excellent play coming in from just trying to read the name because it's sideways. That's really obnoxious. Vainu I am. Is that Vain Su? How do you say that? Vain SU.
Yeah,
I
Vainsu,
am.
I am.
Vain Su I am
Mhm,
has taken advantage of Master Yi leaving up so much energy. It's just like, I can just develop here.
mhm.
Like, I'm on evens. Taking the 5th point opens me up to a risk that I don't necessarily need to take. We are going to get a rampage to rip out this Kha'zix, but there's also an argument about whether you go for the Matriarch or if you go for the Rengar. But whenever your opponent leaves up a bunch of energy, it gives you there's the Akali Silent. It gives you a lot of room to develop and then burn your opponent's energy. But we do still have to take advantage of development. So that rampage was very well timed.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you there. But then also being able to get a stacked deck that while you are falling maybe a little bit behind in this case, now getting that stacked deck could be able to find that search to hopefully get an answer to be able to deal with this Ruin Runner because we are down on points. And not only that, we also have a Yi that still has 4 runes up. And even though there's only 4 cards in hand, that can still be very intimidating to try to work around. But we do have some tentacles to do the heavy lifting for us a little bit. So one's going to be moving into Starspring to be able to gain a point with it taking this to 5-5. But still, there is a lot of work that Kha'zix has to do, especially with that Hourglass being out in the base for Master Yi.
Yeah, losing our Kha'zix here is really tough, as that's one of our key units in order to win this matchup. And our opponent has 2 cards in our hand, and we've literally just played 2 units that say your opponent can interact with them. And this is partially why Yi has been such a menace, is because it had access to just 1 unit that did this. We now have 2. Okay, we're saying our last card is a punch first. Because we've got a 2 might advantage over this this Forerunner. Sorry, this Rune Runner.
Mm-hmm.
So Kha'zix could have only made this attack if they had punch first.
Yeah, and that's the interesting part here. And even with looks like that is going to fall flat. So maybe it was just a bit of a risk to try to get that last advantage, but still with 4 runes up, there has to be some answers there that are able to be dishing out some way to be able to get over this. And so I don't know. It's just
Yeah,
not.
we've got the right idea as Master Yi. It's just like we have to ride this Rune Runner all the way to victory.
Mm-hmm.
And by just investing, basically holding all of our energy just to make sure that that thing doesn't get knocked off. And it's awkward it has to be on Frozen Waste, but if it moves back, it just gives our Kha'zix player a chance to score that point. And Akali, despite being excellent on attack, is not very good at holding. Although Master Yi, so
Yeah.
we do have a bit of opportunity here.
Master Yi does make that a lot more viable here. And, I'm still trying to figure out that attack in with the Rengar. It might have been just that high risk, high reward, but you're losing just such a good unit there. But we are going to go and empower our Tail-Cloaked Matriarch to try to now play a unit out from our trash. Now, of course, that can only cost 3 and a power or less. And it looks like in that case, we are going to be having the Shadow Order Disciple then come in. So we'll see. There's still a lot of game left, but if you give Yi an inch, he can run a mile. And so we'll see if this bug is about to get squashed.
Yeah, it'd be very well for FF Living. Surrender Living, that is a great name. It's gonna be well fought because Kha'zix is a bit of a nightmare matchup for you. It's uncommon enough, but you kind of have to practice it because of how difficult it is. And see, this hidden card changes it so much because Akali is only untargetable as long as she's not in combat. So if you move her in, all of a sudden that hidden card becomes very relevant when it otherwise wouldn't be.
Yeah.
So we get our 6th point. So basically what we're saying is we've left up all of our energy, which is probably Rengar, and any number of combat tricks, is that our opponent has to team attack into this Rune Runner. Or we're going for Switcheroo would have been really good to not have in the trash against this Akali Silent.
Mm-hmm.
But this Rune Runner is just being a complete bully here. It's all because we lost this Kha'zix. It's unfortunate if we'd have left this in the champion zone. and then wouldn't have been able to use it on the ambush, that we probably would have been able to run away with this game, but we just decided to try and burn our opponent's runes, and they happen to have the rampage. So what was actually tactically, from an economic point of view, was a very good turn for Kha'zix, might be the small edge that gives Yi this win. But it's all to play for. It's coming neck and neck. It's just, do we draw the out to the rune runner?
Well, and that's going to be the thing too here, and it looks like we are trying to make that final attack in this play here. So, I mean, we still have 7 might, never mind. We have 3 might left in base. We are trying to defend this battlefield, and I'm wondering, it's like, you know, we're really trying to hold, but if we even happen to hold, what then? What is this Kha'zix going to be able to do to then be able to take the forbidding waste? I'm just seeing that this is just a big wall that is going to be very difficult to try to get under.
Yeah, we could play, was it From Below, which returns everything back to their owner's hand, but then we've got no way of getting a fast unit in. The Rune Runner comes back, so first mate. Yep. We're ready to make this push.
Yeah, and now I can't be targeted at this point, and then on top of that, it looks like we might have another punch first to be able to come in, so that is going to be a 10 might Ruin Runner that cannot be chosen by spells, or abilities for that matter, and even though you have a lot of units out there, they do not equal the most amount of might.
2 units in hand. Sorry, we've got 2 cards in hand that we know do not interact. It's Rampage and... I've forgotten a card. That is really bad form. Oh, and we've also got the Discipline.
Yeah, and it was the Star-Crossed.
Star-Crossed, yeah. 2 cards that just don't interact here at all.
And the switcheroo is just not going to be able to do it either. And I think the Yi, because of the first mate, was able to then move in and just make a mammoth of a Ruin Runner that was able to get those answers. So those cards ended up being dead because of what the Ruin Runner was able to do, holding all the way up to that 7 points and then being able to attack right in. So very good game. Love to see what that is able to have in store for us.
Yeah, very, very well played by FF Living, understanding their win condition, and it always helps when you draw the 2 punch first, and ultimately being able to rampage off that Kha'zix was probably where this game tipped. And then, just unfortunately for Kha'zix, they never drew an out to Rune Runner. But other than that, very, very well played. They did what they could. There's a lot of tentacles. Obviously, Kha'zix does a lot more than it used to now, which is great. But it's a deck that terrifies me, so I imagine you're going to see a whole bunch of this coming up in LA and Barcelona, especially after people have time to learn all the new tricks you can play.
Well, and that's the thing, too. One thing that's been really fun to see with all of this is what we now get to see with Kha'zix, who has been able to do pretty good in these games, too. I gotta say, I really love that it's been able to get a win in the Runes and Rift tournament, because it never necessarily had a whole ton of legs in this last set, but it looks like that it is having a better chance in this one.
Yeah, I mean, in all fairness, it's always been a good deck, but it's always been one that you have to really study every other deck and understand exactly what you're doing. You have to play a lot harder on Kha'zix to achieve results versus just understanding your deck and what it tries to do and setting the pace, which is something that Diana and Yi are both very good at. It's like, as long as I understand what I'm supposed to be doing, I don't have to think as much as my Kha'zix opponent, who has to then come in, go through their specific checklist for how they approach this matchup. With Yi, it's like, oh yeah, I kind of have. I need to figure out what my win condition is against Kha'zix, but it's in most cases it's like the Yi plan is mostly the same in every game, whereas with Kha'zix it's going to be a lot of, I need to pick off my opponent's key units. I need to know what they are. I need to know what I'm digging for my stack decks in order to find those key answers. So it's a difficult deck. And this is kind of like the decks like that. You tend to see one player monopolizing all the best ofs, like Colin on set. It's like, oh yeah, it turns out that set is actually quite technical, and there's a reason that only one player was winning all of it, because anybody else who tried to learn it just wasn't doing it better than Colin. And I don't know if Colin's moving on to Ambessa for the next set.
It looked like a Collie with what he was saying.
That is going to be a very contested one. Akali is a weird deck. I still don't know where I stand. I think the correct version is definitely playing Astral Heron, and I think not playing Astral Heron in your Akali deck is probably wrong. But yeah, the format's still got room to grow at the moment.
Yep. So it'll be interesting to see how it fleshes out, especially as we get into this first regionals that is coming up here momentarily. But with that being said, guys, that is going to be the end of round number 1. We're taking a look at the leaderboard right now and how everything ended up playing out as these players start to get into round number 2. So a lot of game to still be left to played. We have round 3 after this as well. So stay tuned for that. We're going to be taking a real quick break to set up the next round for you. So stay tuned, and we'll have more Riftbound coming your way.